Hello and welcome to Armored Warfare's constant firework display, otherwise known as the review for the Sprut SD. So let's start off with a little introduction to this. This is a tier 8 tank destroyer, but functions more of a light tank. It's quite fast. It's, as you can see here, it's pretty stealthy. 48% camouflage while stocked is nothing to scoff at, even for AFEs. And even 40% camouflage on the move is also pretty good as well. It has the fastest reloading 125mm cannon in the game. It's punchy, it comes with a hard kill APS system, and it has absolutely no armor whatsoever. And it has hydromatic suspension. Why not? So let's go. So let's dive right into the deep of this thing. We'll start off with the modules. As you can see, you get a spore liner, which increases your hit points by 150. However, to be honest, the smoke grenade magazine and the APS are a secondary concern. The first thing you really want to go for is this branch. You get your stock gun at the game, so you get your good AP rounds, 680 pen, 576 to 704 damage, pretty good. And then on this line you also get your missiles and heat rounds. The missiles, they're not great, but given the tank's gun depression, they can be occasionally useful, and the heat rounds do pack a wallop. You also get your improved laser rangefinder, your night day vision system, which doesn't really help much, but the improved autoloader, which increases your rate of fire by 13%, is definitely something you want to go for. And lastly, not least, you also get some improved drive sprockets. So my recommendation is firepower, smoke, spore liner, and then the drive sprockets, and then you can get your Zatsiev commander, who doesn't really particularly suit the tank, but well, it happens. So this is on the fourth line to be introduced into Armored Warfare. Give me a sec, I still don't know how to navigate the garage properly. Oscar Faraday, in which it comes after the NM142 and leads to the K21 and the Corner EM. However, unlike other tank destroyers of its tier, it does not come with a ready rack and is a single shot gun. However, it is also the most powerful single shot gun for tank destroyers on its tier, so that's pretty good. So if we compare it to the Sprut, well, that of a tank, the Striker, the other Striker, the RCR, we can see relatively right away that, hopefully I haven't missed anything, I have not, so we can see right away that it basically has the best gun out of all of these guys. 640 damage, only slightly less than the NM142's missiles. It does a whopping punch more than the 140 more than the MGS and the RCR. 680 pen, again the best in its tier, it beats out the heat rounds. Also extremely high DPM, only lacking behind the RCR, and it also has a very punchy reload time if you go all the way for reload stacking, which of course you should do, of 5.6 seconds, which is absolutely exceptional. However, it has the second worst armor here, joint with the missile dildo and the Striker, with the RCR having better armor. However, it does also have the best camouflage, beating out just about everything else in its tier, and since it's smaller to the ground, the smallest of the vehicles here, is also far better than the MGS, as well as also having very high view range. However, the gun depression is basically non-existent, so don't even bother. Pretty decent aim time as well, 1.4 seconds, and turret reverse, which means that in the event that you're tracked, you can at least get one shot off before you get murdered by by things with high explosive shells, of which high explosive shells will kill you. So good stock of AP shells there. They do high enough damage to basically really hurt anything, even tier 10s. Some heat rounds for those pesky AFEs, and some missiles for when you kind of need to fire over a cliff. There are a couple of commanders you can take. You can always take Sabrina for the traditional TD. You get better module damage, crew damage, some decent aim time and stuff here. Better camouflage, of course, which is all pretty good. On the other side, if you wanted to go super duper stealthy, you could always choose Erin O'Connell, who gives you basically all of the camouflage, as you can see here. Beautiful stuff. Basically moving through foliage, and a 8% increase if no vehicles over in 25 meters, which is always pretty damn good when you think about it. And then lastly, you could also probably take out some of these and maybe go for camouflage increase by 5.3%. However, these two do generally boot that one out, so that's up to you really. I believe these two are actually better than that. Other commanders you could use are where is he? Okay. I always miss Cortez. You could always use Cortez if you want to deal max damage all the time, which is a constant amount of 704, and I still haven't figured out what to do with this guy for his commander skill, so if anyone has any ideas, please tell me. And lastly, if you wanted to use it like a traditional light tank, you could always go with one who basically gives you a whole lot of cruise stats. So, vehicle maximum speed, special agent, person example, fighting spirit, which doesn't really help, but light tank. So generally speaking, this vehicle functions more of a light tank than a tank destroyer. It's fast, it's speedy, it's nippy, good camouflage, good single shot damage. It's not exactly as good as the double punch of the RCR, but it certainly beats out the Striker's 105mm, and the missile Strikers need to basically travel a long time to get there. Crew skill wise, you could go for smooth ride and off-road driving, or you could go for field repair, that's up to you. Gunner wise, preventive maintenance and sharpshooter, or do the twist and quick draw. There's a bunch of ones over there, however I don't think quick draw is going to be that great. If we compare this to the light tanks in its tier, so itself, the Buford and the Dragon, and of course the Ascot, we can see a similar situation here, having roughly basically the best gun here, highest damage joint with the Dragon, highest penetration joint with the Dragon, highest DPM bar none, and also very competitive reload time, being slightly better than the Dragon, and of course having the worst HP here and the worst armor. However, generally speaking, the Dragon doesn't really have any armor to begin with. The Buford only really has that weird bounce, and the Ascot usually has an unmanned turret, so still the worst armor. However, it also has the best camouflage here, basically bar none, and only slightly worse view range on the move than the other two, but view range while stopped is still better. That implies you want to go for this kind of one. And of course the gun depression basically sucks. So overall, generally speaking, this is actually kind of better than the Dragon. Just saying. The following is up to you. Electro-absorbing paint gives you 8% camouflage. You also get telescopic lenses if you want to play like a tank destroyer, and I will recommend that. And finally, you get that improved gun breach, which bumps your reload down to 5.6. However, if you wanted to go full stealthy stealth, you could always have a reload time of 6.2 and put on your augmented optics, which will increase your view range by 35. However, that's up to you, and I haven't really found any other retrofits that are actually genuinely worth it. As usual, surplus parts crates, first aid cabinet, improved fire extinguisher, field rebuild kit, the usual, and finally a look at the vehicle's protection system, which I can basically say is complete shit. This is it versus its own high explosive rounds. It can't penetrate, right? Except for there. But versus heat rounds, it is... yeah. And while the APS will block missiles, you don't really need to use missiles on these things. Heat rounds most of the time will basically punch through it. There's a load of modules all everywhere. It's not going to survive a hit. So, generally speaking, the best place to aim on this thing is probably going to be in the ammo rack. So right in the middle. And of course, if you're using thermal barracks, if you aim roughly to the turret ring, you'll likely get the turret and the ammo rack if you're in a ranker or something. So, we've concluded that it is a nippy tank, punchy, stealthy, and relatively decent view range. So, let's have a look at some games. This was a weird game for me, to be honest. So, we're on front lines, we're on North Spawn, which means we have the choice of all of the hills. It's stealthy, which means it can take pretty much all of the camouflage done by the foliage, and there is... the fact that I'm bottom tier instead of top tier means that I won't really be shot as much as that crab or the centaur as well. If I was top tier, obviously I would be the first choice to hit. but thankfully not so much, and the fact that there's not that really many heavily armoured vehicles in the enemy team, I can pretty much punch through all of them except for the Macarthur and the Type 99, but fortunately they both have very weak side armour, so I pretty much know instantly that provided I get even a slight angle on them, I can still penetrate them frontally. My first choice for the game is usually to go to the 6th line, which is where the hills and the bushes are, if I'm even in a TD or something with good gun depression, just so I can get some first shots off at the start. It can be invaluable to be able to basically be in the middle of the map, to be able to react to any situation, or to just get the fuck out of there. In the Sprut, it can be a little bit more difficult, simply because the game mouse isn't working for me. Oh well, whatever. It can be a little bit difficult with the Sprut because of the very ridiculous amount of gun depression it has, not to mention the 700mm penetration on the missiles can, generally speaking, be very underwhelming in tier 8, let alone tier 9 games, and to be honest sometimes it's barely adequate for tier 7s, so maybe a buff to gun launch missiles would be good. Unfortunately I bumped into this Leo 2A5 that was my bad, and my team seems to be going on an interesting place to the middle of the map. I've never really enjoyed going to the middle of the map. I guess in a fast spotter like the Crab you can do it, but it's always felt a little bit too risky for me. I usually prefer to go to safe spaces. So I'm going to be the first person down here. There's not really that many of our team here. Usually people on this map like to cause some sort of firing line, which usually means they'll all just shoot at each other over and over again. And for now I'm going to sit home on this part, and as you can see I am having trouble getting it down, not getting it up. So I've retreated to this part of the map, and I kind of want to... Usually I fire off a couple of shots at people to see if the camouflage will work or not. You can usually tell where the enemy is. I've got enough smoke grenades. T90, hit, 630 damage, pretty decent, and he's gone. No idea why he decided that. Thunderbolt as well. So for now that Crab's doing a pretty decent job, however the enemy have a Type 99 running around, which is not good at all. And a Leopard, and a Scent. And as you can see here, the problems getting it down are already starting to manifest. This vehicle is, if this had better gun depression, it would be great. And as you can see there, I managed to spot that RCR with my view range, which is pretty good. And once again, gun depression killing me off as I can't really shoot to that Citara. So we'll wait a couple of seconds. Some water is good. And you see now we can start pummeling that Type 99. As you can see there, I can go straight through his side armor at pretty much any angle. Unfortunately the way the game's camera is kind of sucks, but I can also shoot at this 2A5 as well. And for now I need to... So, the Type 99 or the 2A5. Well, it's going to be the Type, obviously. The 2A5 can be penetrated frontally by just about anything on their team, but the Type 99 cannot. Which means I need to do as much damage as I can to that guy to make him nervous, and to make him so if anyone else does get a slight shot off, they'll be able to kill him. Unfortunately, gun depression. Again. But at the very least, I can shoot this 2A5, which is pretty good. As you can see here, steady 600 damage, pretty decent. If I was using Cortez, I'd be rolling 704 this entire time, but it's okay. And I actually started to fire on that Draco, so the module damage on Sabrina working well, I see. Unfortunately, there's a 2A4 down there. And I wasn't quite able to hit that Draco, unfortunately, and now I'm being shot at. So as you can see here, I've used the 100 mag suspension, which gives you a little bit better camo range, but decreases your acceleration and your mobility. And this is the part of the game where I decide that maybe this isn't a good place to be. Miss on that Barak, unfortunately, but as you can see here, this is when the mobility of it starts to come into into its own. I'm doing a constant 60 over rough terrain, up hills, just about anywhere really. I've done 3,500, that's a pretty decent game. 1.5 times your health is always pretty good. Doing twice your health is always better, but I feel like 1.5 is enough. Miss on that T90A though. This is a very accurate gun, by the way, and it's the fastest reload in 125, which means your first strike will hurt, and your DPM will hurt as well. Which, unlike the striker's measly 540, means that people, well, 500-ish, means that most of the time people can be afraid of approaching you, as well they can tank a hit from the striker, they can't exactly tank a hit from you. Especially when you roll max damage. So for now, this part of the map, I don't exactly want to be down there. My gun depression is going to show me up, which means it's going to be more exposure time, which means of course that leopard's going to be able to shoot at me. RCR over there, I actually bounced something for once in my life. Killed the RCR, everything's pretty going well at this point. Unfortunately I just have to kind of just stop sliding everywhere. So at this point in line, I kind of wanted to get back up at the hill, and then I realised, hang on, we're probably going to win this, so maybe I want to go for that scent. With heat rounds, I can really hurt him. And I was actually wondering what was shooting at me that entire time, and I don't think I ever knew. Smoke up again. This is a bit where I go a little bit nuts when it comes to hiding. I feel like the Centauro is going to be over there. I actually take a hit from the Buford, and now I'm going to remain in cover for a bit. Don't want to be hit by that Centauro. Centauro with heat rounds will basically completely mess me up. I'll be able to unload about 2 heat shells into him at best, but he'll be able to basically just completely massacre me, so it's not really all that good. But for now, on the bright side, we're winning, and this is where the rest of the damage goes. Heat shell into that Centauro over there, almost 800 damage. 700 into that Thunderbolt. I feel like it's going pretty well, and I've switched back to the other Hydromax suspension, which gives you better acceleration and mobility, generally speaking. Ooh, bounce on that Thunderbolt. Nothing really happened. I'm still using heat shells here, actually, which annoyed me quite a bit, as you can see here. I just went, what? Didn't do any damage. I should have penned. Oh well, that was a pretty decent game, I may say so. We'll have a look at the post-game stats when the game decides to load. As last review, the stats, well, the garage decided not to load, which is weird, but okay. The game does tend to have issues like that sometimes. So, let's have a look at that game and see what happened. Sprut is... There we go, front line. So 6,432 damage, 418,000 credits. Pretty decent if I may say so. Lots of damage done to a bunch of enemies over there. 4,000 damage done, well 4,000 spotting damage. And 6 module hits, mostly to that Thunderbolt. 3 module hits is actually quite good, and a couple to the Leopard as well. Second on the team, the Centauro pretty much did a hell of a lot more damage than I did, and the rest of the enemy team didn't really do so well. Details wise, 16 shots fired, 11 landed on target, 5 misses, gun depression, you be the Dudge, 6,400 damage caused, total potential damage was 7,600, which is pretty decent if I may say so, and 1,300 damage taken. The APS didn't exactly work in that match, did it? So, the stealthiness of the vehicle meant that firing at that Leopard and Type 99 meant I wasn't spotted. And of course, the fact that the gun was able to reload so fast meant I was able to deal consistent damage to enemies. Whereas if I was using the Striker with the autoloader, it would have taken too long. If I was using the Missile Striker, the Missile Fire would have taken forever to get there. Forever to reload, and using the RCR might not have been able to penetrate anything as its gun damage, as its gun penetration sucks. So, let's have a look at a more active game. Gonna have to tell you something. This was a weird match. When using Spruts, any fast vehicle with camouflage or view range, usually on this match, I tend to go to the spotting point, which is at J2/J3. You can see which I poked it at. This is simply because I don't enjoy the sniper meta, and neither do I particularly enjoy having enemy scouts come at me and attempt to screw me over. So we're going to go there. This tank is relatively mobile enough to get there. Well, it's pretty speedy. It's basically a light tank, which has been mentioned, I imagine, the past 400 times in this review. But it's fast enough to get there, it's camouflage enough to stay in the bushes and the foliage enough, the gun hurts, and thanks to the double smoke grenade rack, I have the ability to get out of dodge twice. I usually view smoke grenades as a get out of dodge system, basically. And as you can see here, we're basically actually getting there faster than the Centaur village, who's spawned a little bit further off. But it's nice that people are following me down here instead of pushing up, and it looks like the rest of the team is coming as well. If we had met a determined opposition here, I think we probably would have died, but it happens. So we're here. I'm going to move up to this first stack of bush here to see where the enemy is, and unfortunately, given the state of the Russian Rush B meta, you can probably tell what's going to happen. One team rushes one way, one team rushes the other. It's all very boring. I think I hit that dragon actually, I'm not sure. And then I decide to move up and see if there's anybody holding the ridge line who hasn't shot at anyone yet. It does happen, usually there's some people like at the back edges or something, but in this case it doesn't happen, and I've basically wasted my time. Could I have done something different in this match? Not really. One Sprut doesn't really do that much of a difference to an MBT fight, and the MBTs usually kill each other before, you know, a TD can make the difference. If I was in Centaur, maybe, but in a Sprut, not really. So 14-14, our team has lost both sides of the map. The middle is basically going to run into a massive choke point. Of course, you can see me aiming at that T90 over there. The tank is relatively accurate enough to punch straight through the turret ring, which you should always be aiming at when it comes to the T-series, as they are quite fragile internally. And we have basically lost the cap circle as well. And while our team is pushing towards theirs, I don't think it's going to really help in the grand scheme of things, to be honest. So, what can I do? Well, the best thing I can do is basically spot and deal damage. If I'd have been quick on the draw, maybe I could have gone for that TADU, but it doesn't really make much of a lick of difference now. For now, I've got to keep going. It's been spotted by things. I'm not sure if that hit him. Abrams Storm over there as well. Get another shot in him as well. He was on, what, 3,000 hit points? If he's under 2,900, I probably hit him, and I'm pretty sure I did actually hit that TADU after all. So that's pretty different, pretty easy, and now they're capping. At this point I have to wonder why, because it feels to me like they would have won. Well, they are winning, technically speaking. The vast majority of their team is in better positions than ours. They're choke pointing our guys in places. They're about to have their MBTs push through the middle as well to come up behind ours. And right now it's me and our RCR to push them up. So I've spotted them, but I'm not going to fire yet. I'm going to see if I can get myself near to some bushes. Even one bush can make a difference. Or at least. Okay, so a usual tactic I use here is to smoke up, make sure somebody else is spotting, and then just keep firing at this TAD. And unfortunately I can't kill him here. I wish I had done, but it happens. And then my thinking was that if I could get rid of that TADU, I would be hopefully fast enough to come behind that Ramker and the other guy, but unfortunately it's not really the case. A bit late to the party. So, the cap circle. Well, it's either going to be a TADU or a TADU in there. So I'm just peeking out. Okay, one of them's over there. He doesn't spot me, thankfully. So what do I do now? Well, I'm going to circle round to around this area here, because at this point you pretty much know that guy's not going to be there. Quick shot into that TADU, 610 damage. He was using high explosive. If he had used heat, that would have really hurt. But as you can see, even using HE on apparently red vehicle is still going to do a lot of damage to you. So I know where he is now. He's behind one of those two buildings, which means I can simply come up from behind there and go for him. Now, I could have rushed in through this way, but that would have meant it would have been a close combat situation, and against a TDU, you either aim for the turret ring or the lower plate. And with a Sprut, turret ring. So, I'm going to use this bush. Bushes are good, and as you can see, we have found him. And he did not find us, because I was covered by a bush, and this thing's camo range thankfully means that hit me. If I was in a light tank, would have spotted me. But thankfully the Sprut, that was not an option. So for now, I'm going to double back to this place here and see if I can start hurting their team. It's a no-brainer to whether or not we've lost at this point, but the fact that maybe I can do damage is good enough. Maybe hit that Termi. No. And I was kind of hoping that the enemy would simply just rush down the fields to get us, but that doesn't seem to be much of a point here. It's just me, a Sprut, and an RCR, and we're not harboring any fantasies. We're definitely going to lose this. Thankfully, though, the RCR has put himself in a pretty good position there, and now I can actually hurt this T90A, hitting the engine, and there seems to be a Abrams coming for me. So almost hit yet. Come on. Just searching for a place to kill the Abrams. Damn it. Miss. You know I'm dead at this point. Hit, hit, hit. 4,406 isn't bad, but what I wanted to communicate is, once again, it's fast, punchy, and the camera range actually helped me from getting spotted a couple of times. Especially with creeping up on onto that TDU at the cap circle, which if I had taken a hit, that would have hurt. So, as you can see by the endgame stats, when I actually bring them up, give me a sec, I actually did a lot more than I intended to, and that's because I think I actually got an ammo rack on that TDU. So, seems like using Sabrina is probably the best all-round commander for it. Top of the team, 2 kills, 1,400 spot damage, not bad at all there. Mert did a lot more, but defeat, I don't mind. So, do I recommend this vehicle? Yeah, I do. It's fun. In Glops, it's a really good sniper, it's a good pusher, you can damage people, your DPM is through the roof, you got the fastest fire in 125, and in comparison to the, say, the T72B3, only has slightly more damage. You have a lot less penetration though, but the 40mm doesn't really make that much difference when it comes to fighting tear rate. So you can fight head to head with MBTs if you get the head drop on them, and you also have vastly better DPM as well. Recommended, as said before, yes. It's good, fun, punchy. PvE is a little bit more difficult because PvE doesn't exactly really support using thinly armoured vehicles, but it is workable provided you stay back and you use presumably a lot of heat shells. So that concludes the review for the Sprut. I hope you enjoyed it. Might have taught you something about it. Don't know. As always, like, subscribe, review every week. Next week is the Stingray 2, I think. I got a couple of good games for that lined up, so that should be a lot easier, and then hopefully get a voice actor to do an introduction. If you do like the voice actors doing introductions, please comment below and tell me how it went. Yay or nay, feedback is important. And lastly, I am trying to get a pair of necklaces together for my wife and maid of honour when I get married in April. So if you'd like to help out with that, there is a Streamlabs, there is a tipping page below and in the description, and every penny helps. For now, thank you to come in. Thank you for coming, everybody. I do appreciate it, and see you all next time.